Woo, Tyson Campbell got paid, man, right before training camp starts. We'll talk about his deal, what's next, and then training camp that starts tomorrow. We'll do it here on Locked On Jaguar.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Just like the lady said, it's your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars, and we thank you for making us your first listen. Man, am I excited about today and tomorrow. We'll get to all of that. But first, I got to let you know where you can find the podcast. Obviously, if you're listening to it now, you know, but if you just happen to bump into it, make sure you slide over to our YouTube page that's called Locked On Jaguars and hit that like button. I'll tell you again, hit the like button. Then you subscribe. Then you hit the bell. The bell gives you a notification each and every time we drop an episode. Now, wherever you listen to your podcast, make sure you go to that location and check it out every single day to make sure you don't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as playoffs wind down. The sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Hello to my everydayer. Shout out to y'all. I hope I'll be seeing y'all within the next few days out at camp. Make sure you hit me up, and you can be one. If you're not an everydayer, you can be an everydayer. All you got to do is listen every day. It's pretty self-explanatory. All right, let me tell you what we're going to get to. By the time we land this plane on the runway, shout out to those people that can't catch a flight right now too, man. I heard folks been in airports for 3 or 4 days. So I am so sorry. I'm telling you, man, that can be a pain, but we are with you. Hopefully you'll get back home soon enough. But we're going to land this plane where we intend to land it at. We're going to go over some pre-camp musings, some things and thoughts that I've been thinking about for a while that the team has to overcome. But we had something else occur today, and that is that Tyson Campbell got extended. In segment 2, I'm going to tell you who's next. I think it's Cisco. And it's self-explanatory. Why? Because I think he's just the next dude that's on deck. But first, we're going to talk about Tyson Campbell getting extended and getting the bag. This is a little bit more polarizing than some of us think it is. Like right off the bat, because of the Jaguars subscribing to a draft and development and retention philosophy or approach to their team, which is something I have been calling for a little bit more than half a decade now, at least 6-7 years. Something that they had to get to and something that they had to start doing. Well, they're doing it. And there's people that still don't like it. My boy Sam quoted today, like, man, when you look at this, like, I can't believe they gave Tyson Campbell some money, but I disagree with Sam about that. I think he had to get paid. He absolutely had to get paid. These are the things that these teams have to do, and whether or not folks trust teams. By the way, it's a 4-year extension. It's about $76 million. It makes him the seventh highest paid corner in the league with like $53 million in guarantees. So, yeah, about $53 million in guarantees. So, one, congratulations to Tyson Campbell. Good for him. I'm going to break this down in a lot of different ways. And I understand folks thinking that the Jaguars, this is the fourth one they've given. Before Oluwakan deserved this money. Joshua Hines-Allen had done enough to make sure that it was his turn to get paid and that the team did that. There's some people that still think, yeah, we understand why they did Trevor, man, but he hasn't really shown it. And, okay, if Trevor had shown it at the level, I'll agree with you that you haven't seen the absolute best of Trevor Lawrence, right? And if he had shown you his absolute best, that price tag would have been over $60 million. So sometimes what you have to do is, I'm thinking that Trent Baalke and that increased staff, by the way, that staff has gotten bigger. We talked about that ad nauseum. If you haven't listened to the Locked On Jaguars podcast, that they needed more help in the front office. Shad has really stepped up to the plate, and they've added a lot of different people. They hired new scouts. They have an assistant GM, and they have multiple people in the college scouting department, and they're doing it the way it's supposed to be done now. I know there's still people with trepidation and believing that these folks that run the team actually know what they're doing. I'm not going to argue with that because there's no reason to even debate it, because what's going to happen is the proof is going to be in the pudding. You're going to see. And then that discussion will be had when it's time to have it. Like, okay, if we don't think that they're doing a good enough job, well, we're going to be able to talk about that at that time. But remember, now, if you're going to be that type person, if the Jaguars, these players start playing better, and if they do better, then we got to have that discussion too, and we have to give people credit for what they have done. I understand why they did it all. I understand every single drop and every single bit of why they absolutely paid Tyson Campbell. That a large part of it is what they believe he's going to do, and this is just the time that he has to prove it. And part of the problem is, I think guys were rushed. There were a lot of people that were rushed when they first came out because they had to play, because the Jaguars were so bad, in my opinion, talent-wise, that guys had to be rushed. Guys had to be developed a little bit quicker. And then there was just going to be a rush to judgment based on guys being asked to do a whole bunch of stuff that, quite frankly, they weren't really ready to do and have that big of an impact. So somebody will point to other guys like Sauce Gardner and say, well, he was ready to go right away. Yeah. And sometimes that happens. And sometimes it takes other guys a little bit longer, especially when you're having all of these schematic changes. And the Jaguars have had coaching change after coaching. This is the third defensive staff that Tyson Campbell's going to play for, and he's only played 3 years in the league. Okay. And a lot of this assessment, in my opinion, I think they put the new staff, Chris Richard, the defensive backs coach, and the assistant defense coordinator, as well as Ryan Nielsen. And they watched the tape. They saw a little bit in the mini camps. And here's the most important part. I think they noticed his work ethic. And I think they noticed how he is in the building. And from everything I've heard, the dude is all business, and he's a professional. Now, so I want you to look at Trevor, and obviously he's a quarterback, so it's a little bit different. But I want you to look at Joshua Hines-Allen, and I want you to look at Foye Oluokun. And now, take the common denominator with all of those guys. Not only are they just guys who are considered the leaders at their respective positions, but their common trait and characteristic. And when we talk about traits, we're talking about physical stuff. That's not what we're on today. Their common trait is, if you ask anybody that covers this team, those guys are always in the building. They're always ready to go. They're always taking care of their bodies and pressing towards being able to be available and be on the field. So this is a culture shift as well. And I know a lot of people might sit there and go, well, you ain't got to pay for culture. You need to pay for guys who make plays. I think Tyson Campbell 2 years ago played really, really well, especially once he got going. Last year, he was a little bit up and down. A lot of it had to do with injuries and being nicked up. But when he was on, he was on. The question is if you're paying him that kind of money, what on earth are you ever going to pay a guy if he becomes like an all-pro at their position? While other teams are paying like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they're playing all of these guys that are making all-pro teams or making Pro Bowls and are consensus guys to get paid, the Jaguars seem to be still paying guys for promise. Some of that promise could have been production had the Jaguars done things a little bit differently. So you either gonna use the bathroom or get off the pot. It's something else I wanted to say, but I can't say it because that's not how we roll here. But you want to use the bathroom or you want to get off the pot. And I just got sick and tired of the Jaguars hedging their bets. I think they believe he is a very, very good player. You wonder, why didn't they give this money to L'Jarius Sneed if it cost them almost the same thing? And it would have only cost, I think they gave up a third or a fourth round pick for L'Jarius Sneed. I think the Jaguars really, really, really want to start paying their own players. They want to draft and want to pay. They're going to pay for what they know. And what they know with Tyson Campbell is his effort is consistent. He takes care of himself. I think his best football is ahead of him. And this is what happens when you are a GM and you have your finger on the pulse of the team and you depend on your scouts and you depend on your other pro coaches to tell you, look, man, don't let this dude hit the market, because if he hits the market, if Tyson Campbell would have hit the market, I guarantee you that money would have been given to him by somebody else. I'll stake my reputation on it. I got something, y'all. I'm going to show you real quick exactly what I have. You ain't going to be able to hear me, but you're going to be able to see me. There it is. If you saw it, if you're watching on YouTube, you saw it. If you didn't see it on YouTube, that's the credential to training camp, and it starts tomorrow. I'm going to tell you why this is so important to get Tyson Campbell into the fold, and then tell you why Andre Cisco is up next. He should be the guy that's on deck to get paid. I'll tell you about all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. I run a couple of small businesses, and one of the hardest things to do while you're worried about everything else like contractors and licenses is to find the kind of employees you want to work at your establishment. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to a perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't use or visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place, man. When you're not hiring for a small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for your role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has all the tools to help you find professionals. It knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. In my experience, it worked out just fine for me. So here's what you got to do. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl, all one word, to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring, and you should do the same. All right, segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. As always, Tyson Campbell got the bag. He got bagged up by the Jacksonville Jaguars and Shad Khan. Shad Khan was dead serious when he said we're going to retain our own people. He was serious. And I don't know if he heard the show. I don't know if anybody else in charge heard the show. But it is something that anyone who did hear the show in the past and who wasn't every day in the past, it is something that you all know that I have been clamoring for such a long time, that the Jaguars re-sign their own guys. Now, I don't mean just re-sign guys just because they're yours if they're not better than the guys that you could possibly get in the free agent market. In fact, there are a lot of people that don't believe that some of the guys that they're re-signing are better than guys they could have gotten in the free agency market. But the Jaguars, we have to think that because they're in a position that they're in, that they know better than people who aren't in the building. And there's something about knowing somebody's workflow or their approach, how coachable they are, what they're doing in their spare time, what they're not doing when they're not in the building. And everyone who they have given a contract extension to, based on how they show up at the building, based on their demeanor and the way that they carry themselves, I'm of the belief that the Jaguars have made the correct decision and the correct choices to extend all of these guys that they've extended. And I'm of the belief that the next guy should be Andre Cisco, and that would be a good decision as well. Now, folks can talk all day about guys being not that good or just a little bit above average on paper and not being top 100 players and all of that stuff. But I'll tell you this, the guys that I'm talking about have been starters from day one, from their rookie year, on a team that we know lacked leadership and lacked experience. And the Jaguars have won more games than they've lost the last 2 seasons. Yeah, I want people to remember that now. I may think that they underachieved a little bit last year, and I may not like the reasons why, is because I think they did a real good job of not actually being what they want to be and just waiting for it to naturally happen, when those are opportunities and things that I think you have to create. Don't sit and wait for that thing to to just come up and y'all start winning. They talked about it last year. Even when they were 8-3, it was just like something was missing and they were just waiting for it to click. No, they ain't going to wait for nothing to click. You have to be the primer. You have to click it. You are the click. That's what you are. So I think the mental approach that we'll talk about in segment 3 is extremely important. But in hindsight, it could also be blamed for why the team and some of these individual players didn't take the jumps that we thought they would have. All they had to do was beat the Titans last year, get back into the playoff, and have a good showing in week 1. I don't even know who it was going to be against, but whoever it was going to be against, all they had to do was have a really, really good showing in week number 1. That is all they had to do. It probably would have been the Chiefs again. I think, didn't the Chiefs play? I think the Chiefs did play Houston in the first round last year. It was somebody, I think, but that's who the Jaguars would have been playing. No, it wasn't the Chiefs. It was somebody else. I can't remember who it was, but I'll look back real quick. But if the Jaguars would have had a good showing last year, nobody would be thinking about all these guys not, being worth the money. They fell 34-10 to the Ravens. They lost in the divisional round of the playoffs last year. All right. That was the road game. But I could have swore they played a game before that, a wild card weekend game in the first week. So I'm gonna check that out real quick while I'm sitting here talking to you. But I do believe that had they had more team success, nobody would be thinking that these guys aren't really worth the money. I'm gonna hold that. I'm gonna hold that near and dear to me, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it was the Browns. That's right. They beat Cleveland and they got slaughtered by the very next week. I think the Jaguars could have probably at least, on the very least, done the same thing. They could have at the very least done the same thing, and people would have a little bit of a different outlook when it comes to why do you pay Tyson Campbell. I still think this is a good decision because I think it is an internal decision. It is a scouting decision. It is a coach-based decision. It's not just about keeping guys just because you drafted them. It's about understanding folks' value on the market and saying, nope, we're going to get this done now. And if he plays well this year, he does not have to be an all-pro. I don't think L'Jarius Sneed was an all-pro. You don't have to be an all-pro. In fact, I think Trent McDuffie was the guy who was actually the all-pro. L'Jarius Sneed is just sort of their big play guy, right, in Kansas City last year. And this is the sort of money that he got. The reason why Steve, L'Jarius got that paper is because, one, he's a good player and his team won a championship and nobody said that he wasn't worth it. But did you notice the compensation for him in the free agent market? It wasn't what something would be for a guy like that. Remember, Jalen Ramsey, it was two first-round picks and a third-round pick for Jalen Ramsey, and they still had to pay him. And people like that. So the thing is we have to sometimes understand that what the league values in players isn't necessarily what we value. You don't let a dude like Tyson Campbell, 24, 25 years old, hit the free agency market. You don't wait until he has a good year. And remember, Trent Baalke doesn't renegotiate during the season. So they would have had to get into a situation where they were going to have to franchise tag him next year. And it's just not good business. You get this and you get this out of the way, and then you get Andre Cisco done too, which I think is going to happen before the season starts. I think they're going to lock both of those guys up along with, so they'll have guys at every level. Hines-Allen, Alua Khan, and now the two guys in the secondary. Now you got young people in the secondary to help them. I can just see this team being together for a while, for a long time. And this is going to definitively let you know whether or not the brass knows exactly what they're doing. Instead of always changing and always, trying to hedge your bets. And I remember Dave Caldwell used to tell me something that I told him to his face. It drove me crazy. Well, we'll just keep him until we can get somebody better. And my thing about that is though, how are you going to get somebody better if you haven't, when you drafted them, you thought they were good. But when you say you're going to get somebody better, are you just waiting for it to be lucky? You're waiting to get lucky because you're the one that's actually doing the picking, right? Right. So, how do we know you're going to be able to get somebody better when you use your pick on him and he wasn't that good? Don't just tell me you need to wait until there's plenty of people in the draft. No, this 2021 draft has turned out to be really, really good. And that's the year Urban Meyer actually took over. If he wasn't such an idiot, they probably would have been better served had he hung around for a little while, if he could have just got moved his ego out of the way. So yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy that the Jaguars are finally doing what they're supposed to do and what they said they're going to do. They're not hedging their bets. What they are actually doing is saying, look, we are saying that the person that we picked and the people that we rely on are good, and we're going to sink or swim, live or die with that. And I think that is refreshing, because now all of the whose fault is it and all of that stuff, it goes out of the window, and we can just focus on exactly what the Jaguars are doing on the field, and we'll have a big old finger of condemnation that we know exactly who to point to if it doesn't get right. It doesn't get right, we'll say he's not that good. You overpaid him, you drafted him, and you overpaid him, and this is on you. Or you need coaches that know how to coach these kids. We need to start dialing down and dwindling down the number of different things that we can point at when things are going wrong. But remember, in this situation, if things go right, you better give people credit, just like you were so quick to criticize them. All right, if you're watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and have to turn down the volume with all the shouting, make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, we're going to give you some pre-camp musings, continue to talk about this a little bit and how this affects the psyche of the guys in training camp, and tell you some of the other things that we're looking forward to in training camp, which starts tomorrow at 7:30 in the morning. Ooh, I got to get up early. All right, we'll tell you all about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. That's right, man. I know baseball is there, and I know y'all love baseball, but some of y'all ain't real good at making wagers on baseball. You have to actually do your research, man. And Locked On, along with FanDuel. FanDuel has all of the research that you need, right? If you love sports, you love them, and you never want them to go. But since basketball's done and football hasn't kicked up yet, baseball is still in high season. And if the sports aren't sport like you want them to, but FanDuel, I'm telling you, FanDuel keeps on going whenever I want, and they allow me to do that. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, third and final segment here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day, always thanking you for making us your first listen. Tyson Campbell got the bag, 4-year extension, over $73 million, $76 million, and $53 million, a little bit more than that guaranteed. I believe Andre Cisco is up next. We already discussed what it means when guys know that they're going to be here and the pressure is off, and now they can go out and just play. When I talk about those football character issues or traits that these dudes have, they're not the type of people that are going to get money and then all of a sudden start packing it in. That's one thing that people worry about, and I'm sure GMs worry about it. Like, and you hear it in the draft process, man, what's going to happen to that dude when he gets some money? Well, the guys that I'm talking about are always in shape. They're always disciplined. They're always at the facility. They don't, they aren't known for notoriously hanging out and doing stuff that's going to get them in trouble. There were a lot of guys back in 2017, 2018 that they were out there, right? And the team didn't really want to stray that far away. They want to kind of bring things in and have a little bit more of a structured and controlled and professional environment. So they started looking for certain people, not only with physical traits, but the workman-like traits that employees it makes them feel safe, right? I think this makes the Jaguars feel extremely safe. I think Andre Cisco is next. He has to stay healthy. Tyson Campbell has to stay healthy with renewed focus on strength and conditioning and all of those things. And with this new system, exciting everyone. And the guys really spending a lot of time. A lot of dudes stayed here during the offseason and really, really worked out and really bought into it, because I think they had a bad taste in their mouth about how last year went when they had such high expectations. And when things didn't go their way, they decided that they were mentally going to change up. So here's what we're going to see. has that really occurred? We'll hear from Doug Peterson at 7:30 in the morning, right? And before I head down to the field, I may go live and tell you exactly what Doug Peterson said, and tell you that if I feel that the atmosphere, the temperature in the room is a little bit different, it's because they don't want to do the same thing and expect a different result. So I'm sitting there thinking, like, damn, man, maybe what they're going to do is they're going to have a little bit of a tougher camp, a little bit of a tougher camp, a little bit more business like, a lot more teaching, especially and particularly on defense. Um, I do believe from a player standpoint that when they see Mitch Morse, they get really, really confident. I think from a player standpoint, everyone's going to be happy about Tyson Campbell getting his money, because not only does that mean the next man's going to get his and that there's hope that everybody can get paid, but I really think that players will tell you who deserves it and who doesn't. That's why I'm telling you, back in 18, man, I remember 17 and 18, I remember dudes being angry. They liked Blake, but they were like, well, you won't even give me no money, and you gave him an extension. I'm telling you, it caused a major, major problem. There were two players in particular that were very, very good on defense, and the team kind of told them, we ain't paying y'all, but we're going to pay this other dude. And I'm telling you, it absolutely tore up a lot of the camaraderie that comes along with it. It wasn't a person to person, man against man. It was just like, y'all take care of everybody else except the people that's supposed to be getting paid. Well, I think now they're paying the people that should be paid. And I think that other players will recognize that, because players don't like when other guys get paid and you hardball it with them. But when you pay guys that they trust and you pay guys that they know are putting that work in and that are examples for how you're supposed to move as a professional, especially for a lot of the young cats. These dudes aren't the youngsters anymore. Hines-Allen, Lawrence, Oluwakan, Campbell, Cisco, they're not the young guys anymore. The young guys are the dudes they've been drafting the last 2 years. Those are the veterans now. Those guys have to be what Tayshaun Gibson and Barry Church and all of those dudes were when they came here in their late 20s and help the Legion, not the Legion of Boom, help the Jacksonville teams get to higher heights than they had gotten to before. So one thing I want to see is I want to see the approach tomorrow, and I'm going to talk more about that once I see it. I want to see if it feels different. I want to see if everybody's happy, if it's all club man, or if there's a more business-like atmosphere, and if there's a more business-like agenda when it comes to preparation. We'll see if guys are taking it a little bit more seriously. Not that they played with it last year, but the only way that you're going to actually change things and be different is if you do things differently than you did a year ago when you were disappointed. No one wants that feeling again. And I'm sure the Jaguars, the players, will take it upon themselves to take a professional approach. I want to see who works hard after practice is over. I want to see who's done some things. I haven't seen Devin Lloyd, but everybody's telling me that he looks like Greg Jones did. And I'm telling you, if he doesn't, I'm going to tell y'all need to go back and really look how Greg Jones used to look, because Greg Jones was one of the more Greg Jones, LaRon Landry, and probably Ben Watson were the three most put together dudes I have ever seen in the NFL, with how David Boston, but everybody thought there was something else going on there. But I'm telling you, I want to see if Devin Lloyd's conditioning matches up to that. I want to see if that navigation system kicks in. I want to see the alphas take over in practice. I won't mind if I see a little chippiness at practice. I want to see an approach of a team that not only hopes to try to contend for the AFC, but I want to see a team and a bunch of guys that act like, oh, no, ain't no hoping. We're going to go out here and create our own situation and make it happen. So starting tomorrow at training camp, that's what we're going to get into, man. And I am excited. I will see y'all out there if you're going to be there. Make sure you let me know you're an everyday. We'll holler at you. I'll try. Now, 10 people tell me I probably won't be able to mention 10 people's names on the show, but it's just going to be good to see this thing finally get back going. A lot has gotten done this offseason. They've started to re-sign people. They got a stadium approval. The Miller Electric Center looks a little different. Like, all the greenery is grown up. That building doesn't look like it still looks brand new, but it doesn't look like it just opened. You know how when you go into a subdivision and the house is really, really nice, but the trees aren't mature and they still got rope holding the trees and the sod hasn't taken. Well, no, this place looks like it's been open for a while now, but it still looks really, really plush and brand new. So I can't wait to see everybody over at the facility. And like I said, this is where it all starts for us. We're here every day for you. It's going to be a little bit different. We are going to really, really go hard with our training camp coverage, give you as much information as we can with using shorts, using quick updates, as well as during the show. I'm going to try to do some work from down at the stadium as well. So we'll see if we can get that done. All of that, man, is coming up here on Locked On Jaguars. Buckle your seatbelt. It all starts right now, and it won't stop until the Super Bowl is over. And hopefully your Jaguars are going to be a part of that. Whether they are or not, I'm going to be here every single day. Make sure you tap into Locked On Sports Today also, because we've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Locked On, find Locked On Sports Today, now available in the free Fire TV channels app. Buckle your seatbelt, man. We're going to start tomorrow, training camp. Everything starts to get underway. Can't wait to see you. Make sure you lock in here on Locked On Jaguars every day, because it's your team every day. We'll see you next time.